Muslim gangs in UK high-security jails are forcing prisoners to convert to Islam with threats and beatings. That's according to a new Ministry of Justice report. Well, the study was conducted at 3 top security prisons and found that Muslim gangs use violence and threats to push prisoners into conversion. The report says that forced conversions are becoming increasingly widespread in high security jails, and that is due to a number of factors such as social isolation, deprivation of liberty, and also the need for protection. Well, there are almost 13,000 Muslim prisoners in British jails at the moment, about 15% of the total jail population. And then in March of 2017, we knew that there were 186 terrorists being held in British jails. 90% of them were Muslim.
Other prisoners are scared of us. They know they're only going to 3 other jails, and they know there will be brothers waiting there to stab them.
There is an underlying pressure for people to convert and join the gang, the tactic they use to befriend someone when they come in. If they don't convert, they will then start spreading rumours about them, that the person is a snitch, so that they will be ostracised. Then the beatings will follow.
Once I go to a Category B prison, I'll say goodbye to Islam. If I said I didn't want to be a Muslim, I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me. It's very dangerous to denounce Islam. It'll be nice to be true to myself.
Finish him!
I'd need to watch out in case someone stabbed me. It's very dangerous to denounce Islam. It'll be nice to be true to myself.
Jamal says he resisted that route after he was targeted in Belmarsh following a conviction for fraud.
Walking around the exercise yard, they come up to you and give you words of encouragement. You're going to get through this. We're all in this together. So there's a sense of camaraderie, and this sense of camaraderie is what they then use to manoeuvre against you.
Jail can act as an incubator for extremism. And so a government review published today has concluded that some preachers should be held in specialist units separated from the rest of the prison population.
We cannot have safe prisons. We cannot have prisons which are reforming inmates when we have these serious problems with extremism.
Welcome to Supermax. The Australian has been given exclusive access inside Goulburn's High Risk Management Correctional Centre. We'll show you what it's like, who's here, and more importantly, what the community can expect when these men start to get out. We've only been inside the corridors of Unit 9 for 5 minutes and already the prisoners are getting towed. Our guide can feel the tension rising. He doesn't want the inmates too rolled up, so we move on.
It's rare to hear from serving prison officers, but 132 responded to an ITV News survey. 90% said radicalisation is a growing problem in prisons and that they'd heard extremist views from inmates. Many officers said segregation was the solution.
I believe that any prisoner with hardcore Islamist tendencies should be isolated away from the general population with others of the same thoughts.
Staff are too scared to tackle extremist issues due to prisoners making racial complaints.
Employ staff who specialise in this area to enhance staff skills to recognise signs of radicalisation.
But there are risks.
Would it create some sort of iconic status for the prisoners that are held in these units? And so radicalisation will reach out if they achieve that iconic status in these systems.
But the greatest fear is that extremist units might intensify the problem rather than end it.
They're prepared to die for their religion and they want lots of people to die with them.
When Supermax opened in 2001, it was home to our most violent murderers, rapists and crime bosses. But these are different times. Today, Supermax is essentially a jihadi jail. Supermax prisoners are only allowed to associate with one other inmate to prevent them from colluding. 2 men will share a common front room called the day yard, which are attached to their separate individual cells.
So you've got the bed, you've got the shower, and you've got the toilet.
That's it.
And that's it?
Yes. So the cell is designed to be as safe as it can be. It has no ligature points, meaning that nothing can be tied off that could be useful to harm a person or to harm themselves.
Today we notice that the men taking advantage of their special privileges are a Sharia law implementer, a terrorist recruiter and a member of the Pendennis Nine.
This is probably the best part of their day, would be walking around in this circle.
The next stop is Unit 9, where one inmate pauses from his letter writing, realises we're filming and proceeds to give the Islamic State one-fingered salute. In Unit 9, we see the mastermind of a major terrorism plot, alongside Australia's most notorious serial killer. He's one of the very few of the 46 inmates not on terrorism offences. The most disturbing thing about Supermax is the age of some of the inmates.
There is one wing where the average age, I think, is about 24 years old, and that is quite perverse.
The reason why these convicted and suspected terrorists are so young is thanks to the rise of Islamic State. In recent years, the Muslim extremist groups recruited far and wide across the globe.
In a dramatic day of developments, a 22-year-old
targeting fresh faces ripe for radicalisation. They found some here in Australia, and many of them are now the responsibility of the Supermax staff.
5 times a day, Goulburn's correctional facility goes quiet. In the yard of the general prison, dozens of inmates face Mecca and bow down to pray. For the general prison population, religion is a source of comfort, or just another diversion from the drudgery of jail life. A few hundred metres away in the fortress of Supermax, most of the inmates are doing the same thing. But there's a difference. Here, religion remains an obsession. It is the reason most of the inmates were locked up, and, as the years tick over, it's what keeps them going. In April last year, he was moved from Kempsey prison to the Supermax after he bashed his cellmate, doused him in boiling water, and carved E for E, or an eye for an eye, into his forehead. The guards call him the Carver. A few cells down is a young man at the centre of Australia's biggest terrorism plot. He was arrested in September 2014 over an alleged conspiracy to abduct and behead a random member of the public. These are the inmates Supermax deals with. They're inside either because they were too hard to manage in other prisons or because they're in for terrorist offences. Mostly the latter.
Worldwide there's decisions whether you cluster or separate or disperse. So New South Wales, rightly or wrongly, chose to cluster, and that's been the way we have managed these guys historically since. When you cluster, you have all of these people together naturally in one place. They're less able or likely to radicalise others in that environment than if they were spread out.
They're radicalising each other instead. The generation of Al-Qaeda terrorists sentenced in the aftermath of 9/11 are already coming up for parole. Few are already out. Khalid Sharoof did a brief spell in Supermax after he was convicted over his role in the 2005 Pendennis terror plot to bomb targets in Sydney and Melbourne. It didn't do much good. In 2013, Sharoof fled for Syria, where he was last seen brandishing severed heads and executing Iraqi officials in the sands outside Mosul. In August this year, Bilal Khazal, a 46-year-old former baggage handler convicted of making a terror training manual, will try his luck before the parole board. There's a reasonable prospect he'll get out. The others will start dribbling out in the years after that.
There's no God but one God.
When we visited the Lebanese yard in Goulburn Jail proper, the inmates made a show of praying but were far more interested in horsing around for the cameras.
Yeah, no, we got no problem. Any girls?
This isn't to make light of their beliefs or be naive about their crimes, but it was anything but a hotbed of radical preaching.
That there are youngsters being radicalised and forced to join the radicalisation of young, vulnerable prisoners who then can become extremists as well.
Muslim gangs have grown in power and influence in jails all over the country, and the Prison Officers Association is concerned that they target vulnerable new arrivals for conversion, and that those who are Muslims already are being forced into more extremist views.
The prison population, I think, is generally very, very fertile ground for the recruitment of these extremists.
The more political Islam, the more extreme forms of Islam, I've been watching that phenomena for 30 years. I knew what was happening in the prisons for years, right? And I knew that nobody else was really watching. I mean, just as a rule, everybody has been sleeping, and then no one's paid attention to the Islamic activists that have fed off the discontent of the young black males in the prison.
In fact, the former chaplain of the New York Department of Corrections has been caught on tape saying some extremely radical things.
Brothers, be prepared to fight, be prepared to die, be prepared to kill. It's a part of the deen, and this ain't your brother just saying this. This is history, this is Quran, nobody can deny it. You think that there's no terror in Quran? It's called Irhab. Read it in the 56th surah of Quran. There's no lack of translation, there's no mistranslation. There's no one sheikh says one thing. No, it's very clear. When you fight, you strike terror into the heart of the disbeliever.
You speak to some prisoners and they will tell you, oh, I only joined it because it's better food. Or I've done it to get more time out of cell. Or I've done it just to be seen as to be part of a gang culture. I've done it for protection. I've done it because I was bullied.
Extremists who are ultimately released from behind these walls back into society.